Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today on the 3-Man Blitz. I'd just like to take a moment to remind you to follow us on Twitter at 3Man Blitz. Visit us at www.3manblitz.com. You can listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Breaker, and don't forget to view us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Thanks guys.
Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of the 3-Man Blitz College Edition, where we look into the Ole Miss Rebels. So before we get in too deep, we want to take our shots.
That's what we need, more alcohol.
Need more alcohol, boys. It's our third show today. Come on. Salud.
To Lane Kiffin and his 15th job this year.
Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh.
Good stuff. All right, so Ole Miss. So let me slide into our share screen here.
Get the graphic.
Get up the graphic. All right,
I like
so
that page.
So Ole Miss. So it's no secret, obviously, Lane Kiffin has taken over as the head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels. So he's only 44 years old. He has a overall coaching record of 61-34. That's not counting the 5-15 NFL record he had with his stint at the Raiders. So his winning percentage in college as a head coach is 6.14%, which is not bad. It's well above 500. He's well known for his offensive brilliance. I don't think anybody can take away Lane Kiffin's offensive mind when it comes to calling plays, especially. He's also known for pushing buttons. So ever since social media has been a thing, Lane Kiffin seems to push the buttons. Whatever opposing fan base, it's like he just can't help himself. I think he still takes shots at Tennessee, and he was our head coach back in like 2009 or something. So he just loves it. He can't help himself. It's almost like he's addicted to it. But yeah, so he was the head coach of the Raiders. He was 5-15. It was a really bad breakup with Al Davis actually going on air and making it a point to call him a rat. He left there to Tennessee. He had a decent season. It was 7-6 when we were in a really bad time, which he made it worse when he darted for USC at the first opportunity, even going so far as calling supposedly recruits and people that were already enrolled in college and telling them not to and transferring to USC. So, yeah, a lot of Tennessee fans, I think, have gotten over it. They've moved on because you can't dwell on the past, but when he took his offensive coordinator job with Alabama, there was talks of him, I'm not kidding, being assassinated. And I think that really speaks to how passionate, I think that's the best way you can put it, as passionate fans are. But in reality, I just think you really need to know that fans, especially SEC fans, are expletive deleted, insert here, crazy. They're crazy people. They are flipping crazy fans out there. Of course, nothing happened to him. I think overall we won out of, sensibility won. But like I said, after Tennessee in his 1 year, he was 7-6. He went to USC, his dream job, as he said, where he went 28-15 over 4 years. So he had a modicum of success, but not anywhere near what he wanted or what USC fans wanted. After that, he had a couple other stints, but his other head coaching job was here recently at Florida Atlantic, where he went 27-13 in 3 years. 2 of those years were extremely good, where he won 2 Conference USA titles. The other year it was like in the middle too. It wasn't like his first year was really bad. If I remember correctly, it was like in the middle. He had a down year and then he bounced back. He was Alabama's offensive coordinator, like I spoke of, for 3 seasons, where he did have a lot of success, but there was also a lot of very funny for me stories of him like being left by the bus after games. So I couldn't help but laugh about those kinds of things and just picturing him with like his sunglasses at night, on his phone, and then everybody on the bus like flipping him the bird or something. I don't know if that's exactly how it happened, but in my mind, that's how it happened.
Is there any other coach that would have deserved it more than him, though, honestly?
No, not even close. None that I can think of anyway. But anyway, he takes over Ole Miss. So last season, they were pretty bad. They went 4-8, which is just not a great season. They had a pretty hard start against Memphis, who was actually had probably one of their better seasons in their history, and they lost to them 10-15. They went on to beat Arkansas 31-17, Southeast Louisiana. Then they had Cal come in, who was ranked in the top 25 at 23. They lost to them 20-28. They got pounded by Alabama at Alabama 31-59. Excuse me. They just destroyed and dismantled an underwhelmed Vanderbilt team 31-6. They lost to Missouri, Texas A&M, Auburn. The Auburn game was actually pretty close, and Auburn was ranked 11th at the time. They beat the snot out of New Mexico State, and then they got dismantled by LSU. And then the Mississippi State game. So they ended up losing the Mississippi State game. Andrew will have some stuff for it, but let's just say that they probably should have won that game, and they ended up finding a way to lose 20-21. They were going to retain their head coach at the time, and I think them losing that game kind of tipped it over the edge, and they said, okay, let's revamp this whole thing. And they went out and let's be honest, it's a gamble taking Lane Kiffin. They wanted to bring him in. He's a big personality. So the SEC West now has a lot of personality at coach, and Lane Kiffin certainly at the tops of that list. Let's look at the 2020 season. I actually have them going 5-7, so one win short of making a bowl game. Presumably, technically you can still make a bowl game at 5-7, but there has to be a lot of teams having bad seasons. They start out with Baylor. I got them losing that game. Baylor's also going to they lost a lot, but I think that Baylor's going to be the better team. We'll find out. Beating Southeastern and Missouri. Then they have a really tough 3-game stretch where they have Auburn at home, then they go to LSU, and then they have Alabama. I don't see them winning any of those games this year. I don't think they'll even be close. Then they go to Vanderbilt, where I think they'll pick up the W. Then they play Florida and UConn. I got them losing to Florida. I think they'll pick up the win against UConn. I'm not a big fan of UConn, so I think they'll take it to them. They'll be seasoned and they'll have a lot of experience under their belts. Then they go to Texas A&M and then to Arkansas. So I have them losing to Texas A&M. I think they'll beat them pretty handily. Now, against Arkansas, Andrew and I have a shot bet. He's kind of tried to back his way out of it here recently, but it was already made, so it's a shot bet. I have Ole Miss beating Arkansas Razorbacks pretty good.
I'll go into that in a minute.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it. And then I have them beating Georgia Southern and then losing to Mississippi State. That Egg Bowl against Mississippi State is always a good one to watch. Even when they're not good teams, they always bring their best for each other.
Hopefully they won't piss this one away. No pun intended.
Exactly. Hopefully they don't.
What are you referencing?
So I'm going to talk about the offense just a little bit. I already went over Lane Kiffin. He's an offensive-minded guy. He's been at a lot of stops, and the only thing that I'll say is that I hope that he's learned his lesson at a lot of these places. He coached under Saban, so hopefully he's learned a little bit of how to win, but also do it with tact and not be over the top. So we'll see. We'll see what he's learned. He should have learned something by now, and we'll find that out. He has his offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach is Jeff Lebby. He was previously the offensive coordinator at the University of Central Florida for 2 years. They were known for throwing the ball around. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two offensive minds mesh together. I want to see if Kiffin's going to let Jeff Lebby do the play calls and how much he gets, involved there. While Lebby was at UCF, the offense was really good. You remember they were always trying to say that. I think they had an undefeated season at one point or something, and they were trying to say that they should have been in the national championship talks in the playoffs.
2017, I believe.
Was it 2017? Yeah, so his first year. So, whatever. I don't know. They were a good team, but I don't think they could have could have been up on par with the Power 5 teams, but they were very good. I think they could have beat a lot of Power 5 teams, just not the best ones. Previously, he coached running backs at Baylor. And he read the spread ISO offense at Central Florida. So he liked to spread it around, and then when he did run it, it was normally ISOs right off of the guards. And just to touch on some of their new coaches, I didn't cover them a whole lot, but they have Randy Clements. He's their run game coordinator and their offensive line coach. One of my favorites, just because of his name, Joe John Finley, is the passing game coordinator and the tight ends coach. And then you got Kevin Smith as the running back coach and Derek Nix as the wide receiver coach. So when you talk about their offense, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the quarterback that takes the reins is going to be John Reese Plumlee. He was like a human highlight reel almost, mostly with his legs, not with his arm, which is a little bit opposite of what you see with quarterbacks. So he's very explosive that way, and I think he can flourish under the Lane Kiffin Lebby mesh system. I'm pretty sure they're going to run some kind of spread type offense because of Plumlee. They probably run a lot of read option as well, I would venture to say, because if you have somebody as athletic as Plumlee, you want to utilize his skill sets, which is his legs. So I think that's what's going to go on. Starting running back should be Jerry and Ely. A couple of good wide receivers. It should be their start three is Elijah Moore, a very talented guy. Braylon Sanders, Dontario Drummond. Tight end should be Chase Rogers. So there are three big questions, which is like what I like to kind of look at when I'm breaking down a team. So the three big questions I have for Ole Miss is how's their offense going to look? So what I've looked at is the mesh between Lebby and Kiffin. I expect them to throw the ball around a lot. They're going to do, when they do run, it's going to be the ISO and a lot of run play option, which gives a lot of teams a lot of trouble because it really freezes your ends or your linebackers depending on who's blitzing. And, you know, you kind of make that read, which, like I said, it really plays to Plumlee's skill sets. So in 2019, Plumlee ran for over 1,000 yards, but he failed to throw for over 1,000 yards. And it should be said that he didn't start all of those games. Who's the other quarterback? Matt Corral started some of those and played in a lot of those, so he could have had a much better season. But I expect to see him have his talents maximized under this, what I expect to be more of a high-octane type offense. I don't think they'll be the kind that are going to want to run it 3 times, and if it's not there, you punt and rely on, you know, it's more your traditional old-school style. I think they're more of the Lane Kiffin style, you know, which is a lot of flash.
And I don't mean to interrupt you here, Jeremy, but I buy what you're selling with Plumlee 100%. This dude was an amazing prospect coming out of high school. He did amazing things in the 9 games that he started this past season. And I've got some of his stats coming up in a minute, but I had to throw it in there, man. I completely agree with you. I really like Plumlee this next season. He's the first quarterback that I've looked at that in all the teams that we've covered so far where I've just been like, hey, I like this quarterback. I really do.
Sure. Yeah, so he's really exciting to watch, and I'm really excited, just like you are, to see how he's going to play. So, you know, back in the day, you Rebels fans will know that Archie Manning, right? Archie Manning was like, in his time, he ran the ball a lot, and he was electrifying, especially for that time. And then Peyton kind of spurned you and went to the Tennessee Vols. And then you had Eli go there. But Plumlee's probably way better than Archie Manning was at running the football. And Archie Manning's a legend, especially at Ole Miss. If you don't know about Archie Manning, definitely take the time to look. But probably one of my favorite people. I'd love to meet him. Anyway. Second big question is, what do the Rebels need to do to get better? So obviously they need to get better with a 4-8 schedule or a 4-8 record. The team's pretty young, so I didn't see many people leaving, so they have a lot returning. So the continuity will be a big thing, and how well they can adopt this new offensive system. So it really depends on how much they can invest and how quickly they can start to make it click. I think if they buy into Kiffin's system, they can really make some noise. In the first season, I don't expect a lot of wins, and I'll get to that in just a second, but I believe that they can give a lot of teams a run for their money because last year they were 4-8, but if you go back and look, they're maybe one of the best 4-8 teams. That kind of sounds like an insult, but it really isn't. They lost a lot of games by like one possession, so they could have had a much better season. And they really want their defense to look like it was back in 2015 when they were beating Alabama. And they were the only team to beat Alabama. It was like 2014, 2015. So I think it's going to take a few years. They're going to have to recruit some players, but Kiffin, he has a reputation. Some of it's bad, but most of it, from what I can only assume as a player's viewpoint, would be good, especially offensive. I think he'll be good. I think they like that he's kind of braggadocial, kind of adversarial type of guy. So that's what I think they need to get better, is make their defense like it was, very aggressive, and make sure that they maximize their potential on offense. And their last question that I have is, can Kiffin get the Rebels back to where they were? So that's the ultimate question. I think everybody's got it. It's probably a very big key point for everybody, especially media members, when they look at it. So when I look back at when they were the most competitive, I already touched on it, is when it's 2014, 2015, when they were beating Alabama. It was amazing. Like, Alabama went through a span where nobody could beat them, and Ole Miss came out of nowhere and did it 2 years in a row. And I think a lot of people looked at it and studied their game tape, and they realized that their defense was opportunistic. They got a lot of turnovers, and their offense, they left nothing on the field. And they have to get back to that. Their first 10-win season was that 2015 season, and I think it was just the spirit of the team. And I think Kiffin can bring that. I'm a Tennessee fan. I'm not a huge Lane Kiffin fan at all. But I remember when he was the coach at Tennessee, it was like the first time we even took Alabama to the end. We had a field goal lined up where if we could have hit the field goal, we would have won. It was like 12-10 or something. So we would have hit it. We would have won 13-12. And Mount Cody, this huge dude, you guys remember, his defensive tackle, ended up blocking that kick, and we lost. But we could have won that game, and who knows how history would have changed. But anyway, so I think that's what they need to do. And I do think Kiffin can get back to where to get Ole Miss back to where they can be competitive and back where they were in 2015. But the question is talent. So they need to recruit very well. And then he needs to make sure that he stays out of the fire. So he needs to make sure that he's not doing these really stupid recruiting violations or any NCAA violation at all. So that's almost one of the bigger questions is, can Lane Kiffin get out of his own way, become a head coach, let his guys do his thing and only step in when he needs to, and bring Ole Miss up where Alabama may be dipping down. We'll see. But Kiffin back in the West, at the very least, is going to be very entertaining for everybody to watch. I'm looking forward to it. I'm more invested in watching an Ole Miss game than I ever have been. So having said that, I think I've got Ole Miss going 5-7.
Yep.
So 5-7. So I've got them just this short of a bowl game. But with that, I'll turn it over to Queasy so he can talk about the defense a little bit.
Before I jump into that, of course, Lane Kiffin, he definitely has a history of turning around teams. Maybe not always the right way, but again, that history is there. Again, as long as he can get out of his own way, as you said, there could be some big changes going on there. As for that defense, I don't have much to say about them. Not a lot of bright spots, but again, hopefully the offense will and Kiffin will lead them in the right direction. The strongest pieces are the linebackers with leading tacklers like Lakia Henry, Jaquez Jones, and also sack expert Sam Williams being the foundation for that defense. These guys are coming back again. Lane Kiffin there. This is a great, especially with three pieces, great for the foundation for that defense. Something to work with and look forward to for him. But they also have a super tough schedule. As you mentioned, some of them games, some of them teams are Baylor, of course, right in Auburn, LSU, Alabama, and even Florida. All this is around the beginning of the season. So, if they don't jump off to a good start, that is going to show you how it's going to end up being. So they have to come out the gate strong. And again, as we spoke in other videos, this COVID situation has changed a lot of things and could change a lot of things in the future. And we don't know how it's going to be or how it's going to affect certain teams. But so again, if Ole Miss doesn't jump out the gate strong, so it's one of those things where they can catch some big teams off guard and get some wins, or will they fall in their own place and still just lose games they're expected to lose in a sense? So again, they have to make that decision on what they want to do and how they want to come at those games and those teams. Other than that, again, their defense is going to have their hands full all season long with those teams. The perception of them, brand new coach, again, tough schedule. I just don't see a lot. I want to speak highly of them. I'm not trying to down them. It's just a huge question mark with Ole Miss, especially with Kiffin. Again, I'm not a fan of him, honestly, but you can't knock his track record, which is a winning track record.
No doubt. And, it's funny when you bring up their season, like their 2020 season, I just had the thought of, like, what if they beat Baylor, right? And then they have Southeastern Missouri, and then they're going into that Auburn game undefeated, 2-0. What if they pulled that win off, right?
Exactly.
And they're 3-0, and everybody's like, hey, hold up, Ole Miss. They've got some stuff going, Lane Kiffin. And then they're going into Death Valley. If they upset LSU, which is a huge, it's a huge what if, whatever. But imagine, though, I like to do this anyway. It's chaos. College football's chaos anyway. Imagine if they upset LSU. Nobody's going to call it. But if they did, oh, my God. Could you imagine the hype around them? It would be amazing.
Bro, my weak card can't handle all this talk.
I know. I don't think it's going to happen. Exactly. But imagine if it did, though. Like, I've got them losing to Baylor, right? So it's like, okay, you got a loss. But, like, if they win and then they beat Auburn too, just imagine it. That would be insane. I would that's why I love college football.
And they claim Baylor's in a neutral site, but it's still the game's still in Texas. It's not at their school.
It's not far.
But it's still in Texas, so it's not really a neutral site in a sense.
It's like when Georgia plays in the SEC championship and it's in Atlanta. Neutral site? Exactly. Okay, that place is red, dog.
Yeah, it's like, come on, son.
But I will say, though, I've got them losing to Baylor as well, which I'm going to go ahead and pull up my graphic if you're cool with that, Queasy, if you're done. All right, big dog. Right here. I've got them losing to Baylor. But it would not surprise me one bit because Baylor's got coaching changes out the wazoo. And, Lane Kiffin's got this air about him. I don't like the guy. I don't think he's a great head coach. But it would not surprise me to see them come out and hit Baylor square in the mouth. Game one, right out the gate saying, hey, we're Ole Miss. We're here. You have to pay attention to us now. We're not going to be the toilet paper of the SEC West anymore. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. No, I mean, they're probably going to get the win at Southeast Missouri, lose. I mean, Auburn's tough. They've got a really tough defense. I'm not sure Lane Kiffin's offense is going to be ready for that after this COVID situation, plus the fact that he's stepping into a new head coaching role at a school where he's got no clout. And I know he was losing recruits left and right this past season as soon as he got hired because everybody's like, people's mamas being like, I don't want my kid playing for Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin does this. Lane Kiffin does that. So hopefully he can establish this season some familiarity with the system and some relationships with recruits and this and that, and start building this program back to what it used to be. But I think that I know this sounds like a loser mentality, but it's not. With what you have right now, you should be happy with a 5-7 season and possibly getting an upset somewhere. Like I said, Baylor's there. You could catch Florida at home maybe and upset them. I mean, Mississippi State. I've got Mississippi State as a loss, but there's a very good chance that, he could go up against Mike Leach and get the win there. So there's two games right there at the beginning. Yeah, at the beginning and the end of the season where there's a good possibility you could sneak out a win there and you could make a freaking bowl game. If they make a bowl game, that would be huge for this program, huge for his recruiting, huge for the school.
Yeah. Yep.
But, they've got a tough schedule. They play in the West. And like I said, as of right now, it looks like they're just the toilet paper of the West. But it's up to Lane Kiffin to prove that there's something more there to this program.
No doubt. And just now, to interrupt real quick, sorry, just one last thing about their schedule. Them, it's a great point. Them having to play in the West, and they're always up, right? They're always pretty good in the SEC. But the fact that they have to draw Florida out of the East is pretty tough for them. And then they get Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt should be a win, but Florida's tough.
Florida's not a joke.
Throw that in there. Florida's not a bad team. They've got a fantastic defense, as much as it's tough for me to say. But
quit talking about them more than we have to. We'll get there when we get there.
That's true. That's true.
All right. So this is my take on some of the Ole Miss Rebels tradition. This is Queasy's favorite part. I'll say it again. The Ole Miss battle cry. This is number one. The Ole Miss battle cry. Hotty toddy has no actual meaning, but is a cheer. Quit laughing. But is a cheer that embodies the spirit of Ole Miss. It's used by everyone on campus, by fans, by alumni, by players, and I don't know what it means. It just, I guess it's kind of like, it's like the opposite of Hail State.
Hotty toddy.
Isn't a hotty toddy a drink?
I think so.
I think it is, but I don't think that would be the beating. But
yeah, I think yeah. Hotty toddy and
Hotty toddy. Yeah, let's start hollering that. Hotty toddy.
Well,
toddy.
Don't do that. You'll end up in HR. You'll end up in HR. Don't do that.
The Grove, which we've all heard of the Grove, is a legendary SEC tailgating venue, and it's Ole Miss's place. It's their place. Sports Illustrated named it the nation's #1 tailgating locale. Now, I've heard about the Grove. Being a Georgia fan, we don't play we don't play Ole Miss every year, and so we don't. I watch Ole Miss games when I get a chance. When it's on TV, this and that. But after doing some of the research I did on the Grove, this is definitely one of the away games that I want to start trying to hit every time it rolls around, because it looks absolutely awesome down there.
Yeah, when I think SEC Nation went there like a couple of years back, and when I saw the Grove, not really ever really paying attention to Ole Miss because I'm a Tennessee fan, it was amazing. And even I was like, man, I'd like to go there. It looks really fun, like all the trees. It looked pristine. It looked good. Everybody's always cooking and stuff. It looked awesome. So,
I am not.
Dude.
You check it out, Queasy, man. It's worth a look, bro. That's worth it.
Okay. Good.
Okay, number 3. Locking the vault is, I've never heard of this. This was new to me. Is a tradition in which fans lock arms and sway to and fro, rocking the stadium to Led Zeppelin's Kashmir to welcome the teams to the field. It's supposed to be welcoming to the home team and intimidating to the away team. So I thought that was kind of cool. Never heard of that tradition before, and it's not one that I think I've actually seen on TV yet. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for this one. It's interesting.
Yeah.
This is your favorite.
I gotta pull up that Led Zeppelin song just to see how it sounds. I can't remember.
Oh, it's awesome.
I can't remember it in my head, but
like when I'm having a really good day. When I'm having a good day and I just feel like I'm just a bad dude, like this is a song playing in my head when I'm walking into a room.
Okay, that's one of them songs. Okay, I got
It's one of them songs.
That would be intimidating to see somebody's grandma up there swaying side to side singing. Led Zeppelin. Yeah. All right, cool. Good.
The Ole Miss mascot. This one's kind of weird. They've changed mascots a lot in the past few years, but Ole Miss mascot Tony the Land Shark. I'm looking at you, Queasy. You gonna laugh? No,
what?
Just look confused. Tony the Land Shark was adapted in 2017 in place of Rebel the Bear and Colonel Reb before that. And this is a example of Ole Miss trying to get away from the
I understand.
Southern heritage type deal that they've had going on for years and years. And
Land Shark, though?
Land Shark. Well, this is a thing. Back in, I think it was like 2015. It was the last time that Ole Miss came to UGA. They were beating the absolute snot out of us. It was back when they were good, 2014, 2015. And one of their linebackers, after I think he came up with a sack or a run stuff or something, he came up and he had his hand on his helmet, was doing this number right here. Had the shark fin on top of his head. And so that kind of just stuck as like a nickname. They were just kind of playing with it a lot, and it really actually ended up becoming a thing in 2017. So,
right,
a little bit of Georgia history in there too.
So no like
was not good.
Ole Miss deer season that didn't work.
I'm sure they considered it. Admiral Akbar too, I think.
Yeah, Admiral Akbar from Star Wars was like it had a movement. It had a movement, if you guys remember. I was hoping that's what it was gonna be.
Ole Miss possum stew. That didn't.
Number 5. Now this is where Ole Miss claims superiority over Mississippi State. Ole Miss claims 3 national championships from a dominant time in the school's history, 1959, 1960, and 1962. It may be ancient history to you and me, but when it comes to bragging rights, Ole Miss does not forget. All right, talking about some of their key players.
I apologize before you go too far.
Yes,
do either one of you guys know how well? Because I wasn't big into the SEC then. How well Eli Manning did there? I heard he did well, but do you know how well that record was at all in your heads?
I think they were okay. I don't think they were great.
Okay.
I'll look it up real quick.
Oh, you could.
I mean, you know just as well as us, Squeezy. You can have a good player on a team and still have a bad record.
But I heard
Lamar
Jackson. I heard he did well there. I just didn't know about the Ole Miss, and I heard that was one of their better seasons, if I may say. Yeah. But I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, bro. Key players. Now, I mentioned earlier, this is a quarterback that I really like. John Ross Plumlee. He's a sophomore. He was a freshman last year when he put up these numbers. And he only played 9 games. Keep that in mind. 79 completions, 150 attempts, a 52.7 completion rate. This is not that great, but he didn't really have a whole lot to work with. 910 passing yards, but a lot of those passing yards were to Elijah Moore, which I'll get to him in just a minute. Queasy, you'll enjoy that. I already showed you the video. We talked about it. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now, that's awful if you're just looking at those numbers. But when you factor in his rushing, that's where this guy starts to look like Lamar Jackson. 154 rushing attempts, 1,023 yards, and 12 touchdowns. He was number 3 in the SEC in yards per rushing attempt. Let me say that again. A freshman quarterback who started 9 games was number 3 in the SEC in yards per rushing attempt. The most run-heavy league in the nation. Wow. I am amazed by this quarterback. He's very, very, very agile.
And he seems like he's a hometown kid. He's from Mississippi.
He is from Mississippi. Yeah, you're right. He is number 4 in the SEC in rushing touchdowns. Now, let me say this again. This is with 9 games started. Freshman quarterback, number 4 in rushing touchdowns. And number 8 in the SEC in rushing yards. So like I said, with 9 games started, I cannot state that enough. This guy didn't even play a full season and put up crazy freaking numbers. It's absolutely insane. I'm really, really high on John Ross Plumlee this next season. I'm going to be watching very, very like a high amount of Ole Miss games just to see what this guy can do. I'm going to be watching very, very many games.
Wow.
Jerry and Ely is their projected starting running back. He had 104 attempts last season, 772 yards, 6 touchdowns. Has the ability to gain yards after contact. He is a shifty back and can quickly accept. I feel like Lane Kiffin is going to be able to utilize very heavily in this offense that he's trying to put together. I'm looking for like a RPO to be like heavily utilized in this offense, and I think they're going to be pretty stacked. Like I said, I'm not crazy about Lane Kiffin as a head coach. I mean, you don't even have to know me very well to know that, but I think he can run a good offense, like Jeremy said, and I'm interested to see what comes out of this. And moving on to Elijah Moore. 67 receptions, 850 yards, 6 touchdowns, 12.7 yards per catch, which is pretty good. He has excellent chemistry with Plumlee. Very, very good chemistry. These two are like number 1 and number 1 right there together, side by side. It's like they share a brain whenever you watch them play. Can change direction at full speed, which is just absolutely amazing. Just watching this guy just move upfield. It's insane. Great at creating separation, and he used his ability to change direction at full speed to create this separation. And I really like it. And I think he's on the verge of a true breakout season. I really like Elijah Moore. He was part of these NWO, nasty whiteouts that Ole Miss was touting the past few years. And another guy that was in there was number 1. I honestly believe he's the number 1 receiver for Seattle now. What's his name?
Yes, Andrew. What's his name?
Yes, Andrew. What's his name? It's not Lockett.
No, not like it.
I said Lockett, not like it.
Not Lockett. What was his name? Why can't I think of it? I had too much to drink. Say it, Jeremy.
I don't know it, buddy. I'm not covering that part.
Well, go ahead, go to the defense. It'll get back to you, man.
Yeah, you'll get it. I know you know it.
Go back to the
Momo
linebacker.
Sanogo. I think that's how you say it. Sanogo. Anyway, this guy was injured for the 2019 season. So his 2018 stats, he's a linebacker. He's very, very good. He reminds me a lot, actually, of Dylan Moses, and those two are in a very similar situation. He had 112 total tackles, 53 solo, 59 assisted, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, and he suffered an ankle injury and missed most of 2019. I think he played like one full game. He sheds would-be blockers easily, quickly tracks the ball, and stuffs runs, which is very impressive watching his highlights. And he acts as a coach on the field. He's very encouraging. He's always repeating plays, making sure everyone's in the correct position. And I think that he's going to help this defense take a step up this next season. But that's my 2020 LSU preview with a little bit of SEC tradition there. And as Jeremy was talking about earlier, our shot bet on Arkansas, I made the bet before I had really looked too much into Ole Miss, and I had just looked at their coaching staff. I was like, Lane Kiffin, I have no faith, and so I gave Arkansas the win there. But when I really started looking at things, I'm giving Ole Miss the win here. I'm sure you Ole Miss fans are thrilled to hear this. But if Arkansas loses, I'm taking the shot anyway, and I'm taking the point. So
exactly, and I guess the fans can come up with that wide receiver that went to the Seahawks, DK Metcalf. They can.
Boom!
Oh, did I say it?
I can't believe you forgot DK Metcalf.
I love DK Metcalf. I'm sorry, dude.
Specimen receiver. That's all right. It happens.
This is our 3rd show in a row. I've had 3 shots, and
it's amazing too how it just goes whoop, gone.
I know.
Exactly.
And as far as your question, Queasy, about Eli Manning,
yes, sir.
He started all 4 years, 2000 to 2003. They went 7-5, 7-4, 7-6, and then 10-3 their best year, his senior season.
Okay.
He holds 2 records in the SEC currently, so that's still
so in the SEC, not even just this Ole Miss.
Right, not even at Ole Miss. This is in SEC.
Okay. What are those 2 records?
It's passing yards and passing touchdowns.
Wow.
2,119 yards and 84 touchdowns.
Gotcha.
Now, that's a record. That's not top. Just so you know that he just holds a record. I think it's like 8th and 9th or something. Don't quote me.
To stack on that, I'm sorry, I just remembered another one that was irrelevant. Let's not forget about A.J. Brown, who plays for the Titans. See, how come I had that one, but I didn't have Metcalf?
Because you weren't having to think about it on the spot. That's why.
A.J. Brown went to Mississippi, too?
Yes, sir. They had a very good receiving core there.
They did. They had a really good receiving core.
Wow.
All right, guys. As always, unless you guys have something else to add, make sure you go check us out anywhere, our website, 3manblitz.com. But as always, follow us on Twitter. Go for 3. But if you have questions, comments, hit us up. We'd love to interact with our fans. Let us know what you guys think. And like I said, go for 3.
Always.
3. Subscribe on YouTube. We need to get to 100.
Subscribe.
Always.